My name is Isabel Hansen. I'm a thesis student from UNSW. My thesis looks at how you encourage people to move beyond sort of the inertia to donate politically and altruistically to campaigns. What were some of the key strategies you used in Minnesota and in the broader Obama campaign to encourage people to make that dollar commitment?
Mm-hmm. Well, we first of all, the first goal is to bring people in and make them part of the campaign. And that involves the campaign talking to volunteers or talking to supporters about the strategy that's being employed, and that strategy includes you. To win, we have to talk to these many voters and do these things, which costs this much money, and you're part of that strategy. And so a lot of information about what we're trying to do and their role in it before we make the ask. And then you make the ask over and over again. And oftentimes the ask was made by people they knew, or people who were in their community, or people who were like them, students asking students to get involved. So one of the things we did is when we brought in volunteers, we talent scouted for people who could actually rise above that and be what we called super volunteers, people who could spend 20 to 40 hours a week of their own time working on the campaign. And those super volunteers became important managers of other volunteers. They organized teams of people, and they themselves did a lot of recruiting. They would look at our supporter lists. They would see people they knew, or they would be given lists of supporters in areas where they lived or on their campus, and they would call them up and talk to them about their experience with the campaign, what they're trying to do, maybe talk about how fun it was to go out and door knock, and encourage people to come in and reassure them that they'll get the support they need to do that, and why don't you try it out? Or people would do house parties, and so volunteers would actually invite supporters to come to their house to maybe watch a video that I had cut as the state director, or David Plouffe had done, or Obama, that talks specifically about what we're trying to do, and then ask for money. Ultimately, what we teach candidates and organizers is that when all said and done, politics is about asking for their vote, asking for their time, asking for their money. And being in Minnesota, we have something called Minnesota Nice, which really is we're just afraid of controversy and afraid of confrontation and being turned down. So people have to get over the hang-up of asking people for things. And then we also teach people, when you ask, then you be quiet. Because the other thing we like to do is fill that awkward silence with our own voice again. Well, if you can't give $100, how about 50, right? So we teach people to just ask and then be quiet. So there's actually skills involved in asking people, in turning supporters into volunteers, and we equipped other volunteers and our organizers to do that.
Thank you, Jeff, for your wonderful speech. I'm Danny Fiddle. Just wanted to ask, one of the things the Obama campaign committed to during the election campaign was that the activism didn't end on election day, they would keep on going. I was wondering if you could comment on what's happened with that activation, that campaign post-election, in terms of Obama trying to implement his policy commitments.
Yeah. Again, that's a really great question. I'm glad you asked it. And the idea being a candidate who included people in his campaign, now including people in the policy making that's going on in Washington. And so the Obama campaign is actively trying to keep its organization going. They've kept a skeleton crew of organizers, certainly not the number that they had before, and they've kept the technology up and running and alive and well. And people are now being asked to lobby their members of Congress around the Obama agenda. Right now, people are being asked to mobilize around health care. And it is harder to do than a campaign because it's a different kind of ask. And lobbying on issues is even is one step further away than being involved in a campaign for people. But there's a subset from the organization, and there were 13 million people on this email list that were supporters. So you don't need everyone to do this. You need a subset in the right places. And so the campaign is, the organization now is going into states where there are key senators who are pivotal in terms of the health care and climate change debate. And they're building support. Volunteers are going out and door knocking, and they're asking people to write letters and make phone calls. And people are meeting with their member of Congress. So that's continuing. And there's another aspect of that. I mean, they've employed the same techniques that were done in the campaign, and that is making it a two-way conversation. So before the health care reform bill was introduced, there was a lot of inviting of people to give their ideas and to comment and to talk about health care reform, to tell their stories about health care problems. Almost everyone has one in the U.S. And to record those. And so there was this early stage of people feeling like they were involved in the dialogue with the White House about what health care reform should look like. And now they're being asked to participate in it. And so I think this is really exciting and an important part of, again, I think of a healthy democracy in the U.S., of having people really involved in policy making, especially because Washington still is in the grips of powerful economic special interests that seem to control the day with their money and lobbyists. And so the only antidote to that is real people who are actually voters of these members of Congress communicating what they want this person to do.
Hi, I'm Pat Reynolds from the ACTU, and I just wanted to ask about, I think it's called the Fair Work Bill, and where that's up to now, because I know that Employee Free Choice
Employee Free Choice Act, yeah.
I know that there were some senators who were sick, and
yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, the Employee Free Choice Act is a really fundamental labor reform effort in the U.S. to make it easier for unions to organize workplaces. Right now it's very difficult, and I see it as fundamental to building progressive power over the long term, and I'm really distressed that others in the Democratic Party don't see how important it is to our future and the future of the party and the future of progressive politics. So there's a set of senators, Democratic senators, who are reluctant on this issue. And it was very important to get to 60 votes in the Senate, so Al Franken's presence in the Senate is important. But there's a move to water it down. And I also don't think in this case Barack Obama is exercising as much leadership on it as he could. He has, a lot of fish he's frying, and he's decided that this isn't going to be on the front burner exactly for him. Not that he's opposing it, but he's just not using all of his clout. I think what will happen is that there will be a version of it that won't be as strong as the union movement wants that will pass. It's a tough issue, and I don't know if you face this here, but it's very easy to demagogue it from the other side, and it's very hard to explain it. So it's one of these issues that I think the Democratic Party should see as just an important reform to help us build our own power, and one that should move quickly. Because the more it sits out there, the more that discusses it, the less likely it is to actually pass. But I do hope it should pass the House, and the Senate's where the problem is. But if it doesn't go this year, then it's not likely to go in an election year. We have elections every 2 years, and so really there's a small window of policy reform. So if not, we may have to wait till 2011. And so I'm hopeful that it will go through. There's talk about a vote in September on the Senate side. And the unions are very mobilized around this.